So I talked about this a little bit earlier. This is pretty crazy. Let's get into some climate change. Let's get into some climate change news. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Tropical depression Cristobal has impressively retained a closed, low-level circulation without frontal boundaries, and thus, let me see if I can read the rest of this tweet. I don't know where it went. Oh, thus, maybe it's down here. No. Twitter has been acting mighty strange today, guys. I don't know if anybody else has noticed or has been on Twitter enough to notice that Twitter is experiencing some serious disruption. I don't know why I can't get to the rest of this tweet. Anyways, we'll just look at this a little bit. Look at that. Look at that. That thing is rotating all the way up through Wisconsin into the Great Lakes. That is insane. Insane. Remember when we had a bomb cyclone, like a cyclone, a literal cyclone in the middle of the country? Was it last winter or the winter before? That caused a huge, it was during the winter, so it was like a snowstorm, huge snowstorm, but it was literally a cyclone in the middle of the country, which is, that's funny. Unprecedented, unheard of. Military industrial complex is a lot of votes, indeed. Yeah, here it comes. Watch out, Canada. Overland hurricane, indeed. Let's move on to some more climate change news. Sorry, things are moving a little bit slow in computer land, and I apologize. But luckily, my stream is strong. Weather swings in Siberia as extreme heat is followed by June snow, tornadoes, and floods. This is wild. This is from yesterday. So Siberia, which has been 10 and sometimes 30 degrees hotter than normal all winter, has a snowstorm in June. Do you want to say weather weirding? So a lot of plants are blooming. Flowers are blooming way, way earlier than they usually are. All 4 redbook orchids are blooming in the South Krasnoyarsk region 2 weeks earlier than scheduled, but people can't get to them due to a flood. Strawberries already. This is the first time in my life that I harvest strawberries and gather mushrooms so early, says one resident of Western Siberia. Mushrooms. State of emergency was declared in 3 districts of vast Krasnoyarsk region where villages were flooded, houses destroyed, and 3 bridges washed away by water after days of stormy rains. Floods, drought, heat waves, wildfires. Siberia is experiencing all of them. And so are many other places in the world. State of emergency was declared in 3 districts of Krasnoyarsk region where villages were flooded, houses destroyed, 3 bridges washed away by water after days of stormy rains. Further south, several roads in Caucasia, known to locals as warm Siberia for its mild climate, were blocked by snow. And here are the wildfires, also plaguing Siberia, and tornadoes, as it were. Elsewhere in Siberia, Siberia has seen tornadoes and raging wildfires earlier and more intense than in previous years. The arrival of hot summer before it is due, is good for sunbathers, but leaves many experts and gardeners scratching their heads over what is happening to our climate. And there is a lovely Russian sunbather. Oh, please stop showing me pictures of lovely Russian sunbathers. Tomorrow, the Chinese port of Jingtang is expecting the arrival of Christophe de Marguerite LNG tanker. All right, everybody cheer. A day ahead of schedule. I believe this is the tanker that went on the Northern Sea route without an icebreaker. This will become the earliest ever successful cargo ship journey on the eastern part of the Northern Sea route. Wow. Earliest ever successful cargo ship journey on the eastern part of the Northern Sea route. The Sovcomflot ship left the port of Sabetta at the Yamal Peninsula on May 18th and turned right towards Yakutia and Chukotka on the Northern Sea route. Usually the eastern route runs between July and November. Oh my God. It's early June. So way ahead of schedule. Did my shows? Yeah, I'm sorry. Apparently my buttons aren't working. I apologize. Deacon 1959 says Space Coast is 94 to 98 with rain popping up. Lastly, in this video, guys, we've got 100 watching, 43 likes. Please like up the video. Get some more people on here. Let's see. Lastly, I just thought that was very interesting from NASA. This is just a little overview of climate change and how far along we are on the climate change timeline. So somebody tried to jump on the comments today, talking about, go watch Tony Heller. He'll tell you. I'm dumb. Climate change, how do we know? Golly, I don't know. How do we know? For millennia, atmospheric carbon dioxide had never been above this line. And then here we are, 1950, and here we are right now. How do we know that climate change is happening? I wonder. I'm confused. The Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Just giving you guys a little bit of overview. You already know. Just in the last 650,000 years, there have been 7 cycles of glacial advance and retreat, with the abrupt end of the last ice age about 11,700 years ago, marking the beginning of the modern climate era and of human civilization. Most of these climate changes are attributed to very small variations in Earth's orbit that change the amount of solar energy our planet receives. Does this look like a very small variation? Nope. They're making all this up, guys. They're fudging all the numbers. It's all fake, says lunatics who watch Tony Heller, among other channels. The current warming trend is of particular significance. See, and let me tell you why Tony Heller is full of doo-doo. They already knew this was up here in 1950. So you're saying this conspiracy to fudge the numbers has been going on since what? 1920, 1930, 1940. This is, they've really been working on this for a long time, guys. You know what I'm saying? 1950, we were already, whoa. We are really high in 1950. They've been watching this for decades and decades. 1950 was 70 years ago, in case you're not mathematically inclined. Counting it for decades. But boy, oh boy, what a conspiracy that is. Anyways, let's move on. So this is, I found this sentence compelling. The evidence for rapid climate change is compelling. Rapid climate change, compelling. Global temperature rise. The planet's average surface temperature has risen about, this is NASA, by the way, guys. Well, they're saying 0.9 degrees Celsius, 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're lowballing big time since the late 19th century. A change driven largely by increased carbon dioxide. If you go back another century, we might be well above the 1. Most of the warming occurred in the past 35 years, with the 6 warmest years on record taking place since 2014. Clearly, a serious trend. Not only was 2016 the warmest year on record, but 8 of the 12 months that make up the year, from January through September, with the exception of June, were the warmest on record for those respective months. And we are already topping many of those records right now in 2020. Or very close to those records, 2016 records. The oceans have absorbed much of this increased heat, with the top 700 meters of ocean showing warming of more than 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1969. The Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets have decreased in mass. Data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment show Greenland lost an average of 286 billion tons of ice per year between 1993 and 2016, while Antarctica lost about 127 billion tons of ice per year during the same time period. The rate of Antarctic ice mass loss has tripled in the last decade. Glacial retreat. Glaciers are retreating almost everywhere around the world, including the Alps, Himalayas, Andes, Rockies, Alaska, and Africa. There is no way to fudge or fake this. This is one of the dumbest things about the Tony Heller crowd. Is all you got to do is look at these glaciers that are shrinking. There is no way to fake that. It's not fake photography or fake cameras, or it's not Photoshop. This is actually happening. Decreased snow cover. Satellite observations reveal the amount of spring snow cover in the northern hemisphere has decreased over the past 5 decades, and that the snow is melting earlier. Yeah, that's happening too. Global sea level rose about 8 inches in the last century. The rate in the last 2 decades, however, is nearly double that of the last century and is accelerating slightly every year. Declining Arctic sea ice. Again, you can see this over and over and over again. No, they're not faking this, guys. I don't know. Tony Heller seems to have this trove of fake graphs, or very, very cherry-picked graphs. When every other part of the Arctic Sea is totally declining, maybe there's an uptick in ice in one little section of the Arctic, and he's all over it. He's like, oh, see, it's not happening. Here comes the global minimum, or the solar minimum. No, I say no. Extreme events. The number of record high temperature events in the United States has been increasing, while the number of record low temperature events has been decreasing. Since 1950, the U.S. has also witnessed increasing numbers of intense rainfall events. All you got to do is read the news or just live somewhere in the United States. If you live almost anywhere in the United States, you are living either in an intense flood event or are very close to somebody who is experiencing an intense flood event. Ocean acidification. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the acidity of surface ocean waters has increased by about 30%. This increase is the result of humans emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and hence more being absorbed into the oceans. The amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by the upper layer of the oceans is increasing by about 2 billion tons a year. All right. So the reason that's just a nice little climate change overview for beginners. Again, for the Tony Heller crowd, the evidence is not on your side. In order for something to be true or not true, and I believe that a lot of weird things that people believe in are true. There are actually some conspiracy theories out there that I totally believe are true. Why do I believe they're true? Because An overwhelming amount of evidence. So if one side has a mountain of evidence and the other side has very little or very cherry-picked evidence, that's usually a sign that this side is more likely to be true than this side. There are a lot of cases around other subjects where that is true, but however, around climate change, the mountain of evidence around, proving climate change is just so enormous. You can't even see it all because it's just so enormous and complex. You can't even understand it all. And the amount of evidence showing that climate change is a hoax or false or weird or somebody made it up is just so small and so cherry-picked. That means your side is probably wrong. And I'm going to tell you, is wrong. Hey guys, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can also support the channel at the links below. PayPal, Square, and Patreon. Also, all of my live streams are available for listening on Patreon if you happen to miss them during the day. So you can sign up for my Patreon for as little as $1. If you want to go check out the live streams, they are all there. Thanks a lot.